So recently I've noticed I don't approach anime the same way I did when I first started this channel. Simply put, that love for the media was lost in a way. I felt like I didn't appreciate my own time that I would take out of my busy day to watch these little drawings do stupid things on the screen. And I don't really have like a smart way of saying it, but you know what I mean, hopefully. So I thought about the old ways I would approach shows and some of the old habits I would do. And one of the main things I used to do was to write down all the animes that I've watched. This is an old habit I'm sure some of you still do, or have done at some point in your life when watching anime. I wrote down all of my experiences I had while watching the show. Eventually that led me to sharing these experiences I had with all of you. So 2 months later, and here we are. So I present all the things I've watched in January. So let's start with all the crunchyroll stuff. Okay, to start we have Danganronpa 1 and 3. There is no season 2. Even if we wish there was a season 2. Danganronpa is one of the few video game animes that just works. Danganronpa made me appreciate older animes that paid attention to detail, who attempted to show cinematography. The last anime I saw that did this was Chainsaw Man, and I can't remember too many modern animes that still do this. It reminded me how great an anime could be. In comparison, I'd say it beats out most of the 100 seasonal animes we get in a calendar year. And sure, it's not a perfect show, like how most of all the characters are one-dimensional up until their death, or how the villain is what I call a TV villain, who doesn't have much of any motive at all, and is just evil for the sake of being evil. It still works. Sort of like how the old-timey cartoons like a Batman and Superman still work. Also, their individual character designs are just fucking amazing. So the basic plot of the show is like 15 exceptional students are put into this prestigious top school in Japan. Many of the main characters have this eccentric talent that like top gangster or top detective, the top princess, like weird, I guess you could call talents or whatever. The main guy is ordinary and shocked that he got accepted into the school. He's still excited though. The students then get drugged and are told by this robot bear they're either gonna live the rest of their lives inside the school, or they're gonna have to kill one of their classmates without being discovered. Not like how in Total Drama Island where you have to vote off one person and just kill them. Wait, actually no, that's exactly how they do this. Usually most of the students actually give into that temptation and kill one of their classmates, per episode at least basically, and then you have to find out who did it. With the episode evolving from more of a survival game anime to more of a survival game Ace Attorney anime, which I don't know how the internet didn't piece these two comparisons together, but hey, I guess I'm the first. I like how Mogo knows who's the main characters of the show and who's the side characters. I also do like the change of blood in the animation. It makes it feel more like a game than like an execution, you know, less gory. The show makes you want to see the punishment game animations, with each punishment being a personal death. Usually short 12 episode animes don't give you this level of detail, polish, and purpose behind it. So I did appreciate that it made me think a little bit. When I finished watching the show, it made me feel like we as an anime community have forgotten what a good anime actually looks like. Like, have we forgotten storytelling and dramatic buildup? Season 3, or Danganronpa 3, whatever you want to call it, is the death game all over again, but you learn the events that led up to what all happened, and you get to see the adult versions of the characters that survived the first one. Plus, the main character dies, spoiler, being the ace attorney herself, Kayoko Kiriguri, who is by far the most valuable and most entertaining character in the franchise. Bite me, I don't care. Next we have Okami-san and her 7 companions. I had a lot of fun rewatching this anime. Like, this goofy but lovable show just got me again. I like the fourth wall breaking they do with the narrator. I like how she's this too tough girl who's putting on a tough act so she doesn't get hurt again, not wanting to admit that she actually likes the new guy. Admittedly, I have a weak spot for the tsundere characters. The best way I can describe Okami-san is like, she's rude and loud, but mainly to the people that she finds annoying, confrontational, and overall she's the embodiment of red as a color. The show also gives you this lovable coward and a character who can be useful if his lover's in danger. I do find it weird that the title dedicated parts of itself to the side characters, but I can admit that I do like some of them. Ringo, for example, is the cool best friend character who tries to play Cupid in a way, but I thought that the episode dedicated to her was a bit boring. Even if I do agree that the purpose of the episode was to give her overall more depth to a more joking personality character, I can also remind them that it kinda just sucked. I also was reminded how they have these sex jokes with Otohime and Taro, where they would just let the audience's brain just wander off, with you having to guess what they're doing behind this door, with them making a whole bunch of loud sounds and moans or whatever. We know what they were doing behind that door. I really get to see this in anime anymore, but I do love it whenever it does happen on the screen. Also, if you're wondering, the maid was the best girl. So the main girl Ryoko is like this boxer who works at a Toki bank. This bank being where students would ask for favors as long as they promise to help them out in the future. The main boy Ryoshi confesses to the girl, she rejects him, but he still ends up working at the club because he had the courage to confess to her, with the girl putting on an act because she got hurt in the past by her first boyfriend, who was an overall douchebag, manipulator, slimeball, who is the main villain at the end. Episodes consist of what they do for the club essentially, as well as bringing up plot lines that have to do with him, and characters having to face their insecurities and face their fears. Overall, solid show, great rewatch potential, yeah, I like it. Alright, next on the list I have Fire Hunter. Now I watched this like at the end of the month, but it still hit me harder than a lot of other animes coming out recently. The show recently came out under the studio MD, a studio that mainly does OVA specials and movies, but then not being well known for doing seasonal anime. It's done anime series in the past like Platinum Inn and Dragon Goes House Hunting. The first thing I saw about this animation that made it different was the style of it. It's much different from the typical seasonal anime. It's definitely more cinematic. Instead of the moe bright light novel style that we see in most seasonal animes for fantasy, it's more of like this rugged water painting style with more of a doodle draw type of shading, and I kind of like it. That said, I'd say this anime is more likely to win a Japanese festival award than a Crunchyroll Anime of the Year award. You know what I mean? Like, the show can easily fit into being like more of a short film than rather a seasonal plot-based shonen type of anime. The show has an interesting mix between the early industrial era and new age thoughts of deities. I will say the show is like this hard cookie. It's good, yes, but you'd better be ready to chew a whole bunch while eating that cookie or have some milk nearby. I find the concept of them taking this once homeless girl, giving her a home, and then taking it away from her again, and then making her go on this journey kind of interesting. Sad, but interesting. The world is harsh for the girl, which makes sense given the time period, and then, you know, the plot in general, but also how they take the idea that she caused this previous fire hunter to die while on duty, and then transfer ownership of his dog to her, and then tell her to take this dog to the capital by herself with no guardian supervision or financial help. This shit only makes sense given the time period. This shit would never fly nowadays. Also, I don't know why everyone is such an unbearable asshole to this girl. It feels like the only one she has is the dog, her only real comfort, companion, protection. Granted, she did have a would-be foster mother at the beginning of the anime, but she also tossed her away afterwards, so, you know. The story, when you break it down, is simply a short story about a girl and her dog. Okay, so an anime that has me just scratching my head and pulling my hair out. Iceblade Sorcerer. What can I say about this seasonal anime? It's bad. I find everything about it to be offensive to the source material. I think it does everything just as bad as other seasonal isekais that we've all forgotten about, and you can't act like you have not forgotten about them. Like, can you truly tell me you can tell these different Kirito's personalities apart? I feel like it does the same art style and colors of all the moe light novel bullshit that I praise Fire Hunter for not being. It's just one of those One Punch Man dating sims. Which girl will you pick? Will it be this noble? How about the shy elf? The teacher perhaps? The noble with dark purplish hair with a beauty mark? Or the noble with pigtails and, hold on, now of the blonde variety? Also, them bringing him that one male friend just to prove that it's not a harem, but that's not enough. If you want to know how to kill a good manga's adaptation, then watch this. Like, for an example, I can at least respect By the Grace of Gods for sticking to the same formula that people like, even if I find it to be boring and, you know, the world a bit uninspiring. It doesn't matter, it's still good enough to watch for a slice of life isekai. This show is just a poor version of a series that, to be fair, took itself a little bit too serious, but also was just a straight up bad adaptation of a popular anime series or manga series in Japan. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go read the manga. Hopefully I'll have a video up about all the changes they made to make this a terrible adaptation. Alright, so next anime I really love talking about in general to friends is Ascendance of a Bookworm. I think this actually is the first time of me talking about the franchise on the channel. To start, it's an isekai character that doesn't look the same as the other ones. But besides that, the purpose of the show is to give the audience a fun, albeit boring goal, but then to make that extremely difficult to achieve. It's like you being a kid again trying to reach for that cookie jar that your mom or dad just kept away from you. Then to put that said cookie jar in a high place, surrounded by ongoing rushing water. What I mean from that is you have to accomplish a tons of little goals to reach the bigger ultimate goal that you have. Plus the show adds a tons of side characters in the world that have small but impactful roles that impact the main story, or to at least you getting to that said cookie jar. It's like one of those NPC side quests to a game that somehow impact the main story down the line. The main girl shows off multiple talents but still has set in stone weaknesses. It's like the metaphorical Goku puts on weighted clothing, but instead of him able to take it off, this one stays on the character. She's able to impact the people around her and have them work together. And just when things are going perfectly smooth, the nobles get involved, outright taking away all the progress that you just made or saved. In other shows, nobles are like side bosses that the hero can easily overcome. Being because there's laws to stop them, other nobles get involved to stop the said evil nobles, or the hero just has enough power to overcome them straight away. Here, you can't really do that. You see, there's no nobles that are going to be acting as the good nobles to help save you or come in your time of need. And you can't exactly use your magical power to freely take out the nobles. Not even her poor parents can fight against them. And you see, her magic is nerfed in a way because her body's just simply too weak to control it. But also the one person that can step in and help her and would be morally correct and, a good person, he sees her as a threat. So she has to perfectly maneuver within the laws, plus has to work with a person who's basically trying to strip her away from her family, and you have this anime. The show is able to add incredible twists to the anime watcher, but I will say the one downside of the show is it only works in a 26 episode format. Like if they broke down the first season into 13 episodes, it doesn't work. In any sense of the word, I don't think it works. The only way I can actually watch this anime is if I sit down and I binge all episodes and I watch like that. Okay, no lie, this next one hits me a little bit deeper, probably than most other people. So saving 80,000 gold in another world for my retirement. I love this show. A lot of my other friends who do YouTube love this show. For whatever reason, this is just like an unpopular opinion apparently. I don't want to say you hate women or female leads if you dislike the show, because that outright is a stupid statement. For the ones that watch insert harem / isekai shows that feel like they have to insert themselves into a show to enjoy it, I want to pick up this hypothetical cold glass of water and throw it on your face. It sounds more like you want to insert your metaphorical dick inside of one of these 2D waifus and not really paying attention to the actual show. Rant aside, why do I like the show? To start, it's Mitsuha, the main girl. When she gets there, she outright is complaining about living here instead of blissfully being excited to go slay the demon lord or whatever, right? I just want you to think about this for a second. If you were magically transported to another world with a lower quality of life, a lower quality way of living, would you really be happy to be there? There's no AC, bro. There's no McDonald's. There's no fast food. You gotta walk everywhere. There's no proper plumbing. The food there is terrible. It's ass. You know me, I love food. I eat food out every day. That's my shit. The one cool power you get doesn't change the 99 problems that you have now. To start, she gets tired from walking around so much, passing out. She obviously can't understand the language. She comments on how the food has no seasoning and is watery. She goes to use the toilet and there isn't any toilet paper or soap. When she goes to go talk to this girl, whatever, she's trying to avoid touching the said girl because of her boo-boo ass hand, and she doesn't want her to touch this. That shit had to be rolling. I was dying laughing. I know people don't like the show and how they say, oh, all of her ideas are from her brother and how he pops up too much, right? Well, have you ever thought about the mental health of your favorite anime characters? I know, crazy concept, maybe I'm looking too deep into the show. For me, I think Mitsuha is still grieving with the reality that her family is all dead, with evidence of this being of her uncontrollably crying while in a random conversation with some people she just met. One minute she's having a good old conversation, the next moment she's reminded of, oh wait, all of my family is dead and I'm in another world. Maybe you should be sad about that. And the last important person in her life recently just passed away, right before she essentially quote unquote died. So a way she's coping with this life-threatening situation is to talk to herself as if her brother was still around to help her walk through these events. Another reason I love Mitsuha is because she's unapologetically greedy, selfish, a liar. She's a single-minded, ambitious girl who isn't embarrassed about selling her own underwear or her family heirlooms if it takes her further to her goal. You can call her morality questionable, I get it, but I don't care, I love her for it. Look at the father and his 2 sons thirsting over her after only talking to the girl for like an hour. Plus, she's 18, she can drive, and she shoots guns like she's an American. I love her. I don't care what none of you say, I don't care. Plus, that opening is so good. The way she's just running around to get these freaking coins and shit, she just wants the money, man, and I love it. I'm okay with it. So the next anime I watched was Restaurant to Another World, season 1 and 2. So take Food Wars, a world that's surrounded by this gorgeous food, and you add fantasy characters, mix the timeline around like it's a puzzle piece, and you get Restaurant to Another World. From the title, you can just guess it's an isekai. The fun part about the show is the would-be customers could all be protagonists in their own isekai adventure. Basically, once a week these customers come to eat at this restaurant, with the only way to dine at this said restaurant is to meet the requirements of finding the door, also paying when you get there, but finding the door is the main thing, which simply is no easy task. The door could be on a deserted island, a desert, in a dungeon, a cave, a castle in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of an abandoned cathedral, an active volcano. The characters in the show get a full episode breakdown, or at least half of it, as to exactly how they found the door, usually being from a stressful situation that led them here, with this coming in a time of need. I also like how each dish best represents the character's personality. It's almost like the show is doing something similar to like, say, a Death Parade or Bartender, how the dish represents someone at their core. The show was able to tackle this in such a pure and reflective way. At least that's the feeling of season 1. If season 1 was a reflection piece onto somebody's soul, season 2 was a bright celebration of being with the people you love, with there being a noticeable color and lighting change. You know, different studio, different results. Personally, season 1 was noticeably better to me. A show near and dear to my heart is Relife. The show sticks out more for me, personally because of the age and position the main characters are in, with me feeling a deeper connection because of how unremarkable I feel with my current position in life. The main character Arata has been bouncing around from job to job until a member from the Relife research comes to offer him an opportunity, a bit of a rehabilitation program, giving him a special pill. He eats the said pill. After eating the pill, he's turned back into a 17-year-old, and he's told to relive his senior year of high school. And at first he thinks how easy it's going to be because of his life experiences, and it still proves to be challenging and hard not to repeat the same past mistakes that he's made. He slowly gets along with his classmates, helping them out, and ultimately he falls in love again with one of his classmates, who's underage. But he's unable to act. Why, you say? Well, for one, he has a handler, or handlers, which happens rarely, but they still happen to find from time to time an adult that takes this opportunity and acts inappropriately. Shows rarely discuss this topic now, but with a feeling like they're outright promoting it in a way. With the main character knowingly having all his memories as an adult, but is now in the body of a child, and then starts getting into a relationship with a minor. I mean, I could sit up here and just kind of like call out the shows that kind of do that, but you know, Mushiko Tensei. I did that. The character actually questions his morality, admitting that he has these feelings for this person, but not letting it alter her future, questioning if he's truly helping these kids out, because once the year's over, he's back to being an adult, and the kids lose all of their memories of him. At the same time, the girl he's crushing on is also an adult in disguise, doing the exact same self-pondering that he's doing, but both not letting their feelings/desires stop them from ultimately doing the right thing. The show also highlights the dark and disgusting side of Japanese work culture, explaining why exactly they have such a high suicide rate, with a girl he now loves reminding him of his first love/former boss who took her own life. Yeah, the show can get dark, but is very meaningful. So next we have Welcome NHK. This is one of those shows I started and stopped so many times. After my boy Neb gave his anime recommendations, one being Heaven's Millpad, which turned out to be one of the best shows I've seen in the last couple of years, I want to say. I decided to give one more of his recommendations a try, and I watched NHK. Tatsuhiro is a 20-year-old hikikomori, with it going on now for years. He's unstable, easy to manipulate, heavily into conspiracies, a shut-in who's unable to escape the illusions in his head. That being that an evil organization named NHK is after him, with him unable to wrap his head around the idea that a young girl named Masaki has any good reason to interact with him. I like how they show that he does want to get better and be more adjusted to society, but can't. how the plot of an episode can quickly change. I like how they also reintroduce his high school crush, with her thinking that he doesn't want to talk to her, but that couldn't be further away from the truth, with him just simply being unable to properly communicate. The show feels like it means to teach people about social anxiety and mental disorders, with it doing better than most anime in the market, since most shows shy away from addressing psychological issues in a person. Tatsuhiro and his friends aren't fictional people with grossly parodied problems. Tatsuhiro is simply a chaotic mess like the rest of us. But with all that said, I still don't really enjoy it. I think Bocchi did a better job of doing this to me. Okay, another show I watched was Spy X Family. This is not gonna be much of a hot take on the show. I love watching this show. It's simply just amazing. You have these 3 liars and you put them under the same roof, and you tell them they have to act like a family now. Love the concept. Like it's like you take Konosuba, the 4 lovable idiots who need each other to be funny and really survive, and then just said, hey, make that shit different. Lloyd is like this devilishly handsome spy who needs to form a family to infiltrate this country. You're the assassin lady who loves killing people, who is using the said family so that she can keep killing people and not have her brother / only other family member worry about her. And Anya, who doesn't want to be homeless or die, needing parents. All 3 of them need each other, but none of them outright tell each other the true truth or tell them about their real abilities or backgrounds or like anything about themselves in the past. Lloyd and Anya have this general understanding that she wasn't his daughter from a former marriage, and that he needs her to study hard so that he can further infiltrate this country, but he needs her to keep it a secret from Yor, basically. With it becoming a battle between Yor and Lloyd of keeping their personal life a secret from the rest of the family. Except Anya can read minds and knows both of their secrets, and just finds it very interesting like a kid would, trying to keep things exactly the way they are so she's not back on the street. Characters are lovable, the show is very visually appealing, with tons of individual personality, action scenes, and some good calculated planning. Alright, another show that I watched in January would happen to be Bungo Stray Dogs. I love yearly going back to watch episodes of the show. I mainly like how they would introduce characters or how they would focus isn't on the main guy all the time. The way Bones adapted the story is very similar to how JC Stone adapted Index, with the feeling like they make the setting its own character. It's like showing the same setting in multiple different positions with a different perspective. The people we call heroes and villains got to explore their outlook on the same thing. It's a show about people with extraordinary abilities and how they choose to use them, along with the mental strain that it causes. It dives into a lot of mental trauma and issues and explores it in a different way. A full video can already be made about each one of these characters, honestly. Like, for example, one of the main guys, Asamu Daizao, is a character on a real-life person, Dazao Asamu, who've dealt with many forms of depression. A character who wants to live but can't find any passion in his life. All the main characters' names are based on real-life writers who dealt with traumatic experiences under a branch of organizations that best reflect what they want to do with their lives. Some have dramatic, even if it appears slight, changes of perspective, which has them do a hop skip to another organization. Like in real life, most of us are complicated people who aren't completely good or evil. It's interesting how they pan into a different scene or character, plus they have those characters that kind of fit the mold of, oh, I wonder what they're doing behind this door. We hear a lot of banging and yelling, and off screen you have to imagine what they're doing. It does suck that it's brother and sister, but honestly, this is one of the only few relationships that I can count on hand that I'm fine with. Alright, so next we have The World God Only Knows. It's one of the only decent harem shows that you can watch and confidently recommend to someone else. The way they more or less force this egotistical, obsessive gamer to put down the said video game or dating sim that he's playing to then go out on a real life date with a girl is amazing. It's kind of funny, as in if he doesn't meet his quota, he dies. Taking a dating sim legend and make him play the actual real game of love is truly worth watching. What I always loved about the show is watching this confident character who chooses to be alone and closed off, get involved with his classmates, form a real relationship with some of the girls he's talking to, and then the anime just straight up takes that away from him, with him deep down wishing to be able to talk to these said girls in a more comfortable way that he previously just did, but him now not even having that option. If you're wondering what I mean by this, is he successfully gets the girls to fall for him, but after they said fall for him, they lose all memories of the two of them together, leaving Katsuragi holding the check at the end, with the girls treating him like a stranger, but one day ago, they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and he has to simply just move on. What I also like about the show is they don't stick to this idea. You see him going right back to the original self that he was before the girls. It's just nice to see a developed, well-rounded character. Plus, Alicia having to be a demon from hell is just funny as hell. Pretending to be his half-sister from one of his father's mistresses is just hilarious as well. Poor guy, I know, but that is what happens. The girl is just simply silly. Incompetent at her job, yes, but is still lovable and truly wanting to do a good job. Another show that I watched late at night was Do It Yourself. It's a bunch of wacky girls making stuff as if they're in a DIY club. Wait, they are. What's cool about this show is they're already in a technologically advanced world, but they simply want to be able to make something from scratch. After watching the show, it gives you like a strong urge to just simply yell at someone and say, "Do it yourself!" or tell someone to do it themselves. It's like a slice of life meant to just simply be relaxing. Personally, I like the light and soft animation style they go for, with the blue and green shading. Also, I found the angry English scenes to be so fucking adorable, where the characters would just be roaring these English words at each other. It reminds me of Super Cub, but instead of it feeling like a singular story meeting up with other individuals, it feels like more of this big collective bubble trying to find people just like them. It's a good show if you have time. Next I have is I'm Villainous, so I'm Taming the Final Boss. So terminally sick girl dies and is put into her favorite atomic game as the villain, but because she's played the game in the past, she knows that this villainess dies, so she's trying to avoid that. We've heard this plot line before, but the crown prince rejects her and casts her out of the school for being a jerk basically. But Elaine is fine with this, and she goes off to go see his older brother, who happens to be the Demon Lord, and she's trying to convince the older brother to be her husband, and to basically just fall in love with her. The show literally becomes a battle between the prince and her, and it kind of feels like it's like an NTR plot, because you see them as kids, and the prince is openly saying how he has these insecurities with him never being able to defeat his older brother and anything, and she basically promises to be with him, but the prince is a total douchebag. Like, total douchebag. And I don't really care how they try to change him to make him better by the end of it. You can't change how he tried to R-word her halfway in the show. Almost, but it was still an attempt. I don't care. And how, like, the Demon Lord didn't transport the prince's love interest at the time to the ball, so he had to simply watch his older brother be with his ex-fiancée dancing on the dance floor, slowly. I was dying laughing. I couldn't control myself. Because the guy is just a jerk. He's like this possessive, narcissist, demented asshole who's mad at her somehow. And the pace of the show moves rather quickly because you go from that to like part 2 of the same season. Like they literally could have just spread this out into a season 2. But they said, no, we're gonna put it all in half of the other anime. The anime felt like it should have just been a movie with some of these scenes. But the second part of the show is just straight up fucking batshit confusing. Also, both versions of Aline were honestly good people. The new one with the girl controlling her and the one in the game, with it being weird how the people there were just simply mad jealous of her and called her arrogant because she worked hard. Also, I love how Aline made sure to just get revenge on the prince, even if like they become, I guess, allies in the end at some sort. She made sure to get her revenge at least one point. So I rock with the character. So I'll be talking about Netflix. The only thing I watched on Netflix was Last Chance U Basketball Season 2. Okay, so those of you who are just like, yuck, that's not anime, just relax. The formula of the show is literally like an anime, so you'll be fine. The premise of the show is telling the story of these highly talented basketball players who have all the potential to be pros. Not just any pros, but NBA pros. For perspective, there are like 8 billion people on the planet. From that number, there are 450 million basketball players, and also 4,500 people since 1946, that being when the NBA first was made, to 2023, that's now, who have ever been named at least one point in their life an NBA player, just to show you how talented they are and how impossible their dream is. Because of a freak accident, poor performances, or background situations, they missed their opportunity to go to the next level, with this JUCO college being their last chance. Cause if they fail, that's the end of their basketball journey. They have to go into the workforce and get quote unquote real jobs. So season 1, it ended off more like on a cliffhanger because of the pandemic, with them having a good chance to winning that tournament. I felt super bad. I was like, we didn't get to see it. Like, they didn't lose. They just got cheated because of, the pandemic. So most of them had pretty much a worse stick in life than normal. Season 2 brings in a whole new cast of characters and some new people into the college. And to explain to anyone who doesn't get college divisions, D1 is for all the future professional athletes who have the super genetics, basically, you know, the Zion Williamson effect of me kinda big, me dunk really hard. Then you have D2/NAIA, which is for the athletic people who are not 6'10", basically normal height, shorter people who are still very athletic. Then you have D3, that is basically community college athletes that party too hard, or drink too much, or don't take their sport too seriously. JUCO is basically the hungry D1 athletes that don't have a guaranteed scholarship, so that shit is cut, with the athletes tending to be more selfish in the programs, which understandably they're on more or less 1 year, 2 year deals, so they gotta improve right now. For example, like a Jimmy Butler was in JUCO, and he's like an NBA star right now. This show is like reality TV for men, with it having a lot of yelling, egos being tested, sad conclusions, but ultimately rootable stories. The show follows their coach, that being Mosley, who's the short, super loud, respect-based coach, who's hard but fair, with you having basically notable high school athletes all across the board for his talent. What I like about the show is it does give a good perspective on all the athletes. In the first episode, half of the people get straight up just cut. People you think are going to make it and run away, be the leaders or / best players on the team, get benched later on and have their roles adjusted. The show is able to show the business of the sport in a way and how close athletes come to gaining that success and losing it. Basically, sports anime done better. Okay, so next we have all the hidive anime. First on that list is Loveflops, which at first glance is nothing more than just a simple harem anime with beautiful cast of characters, falling in love with an ordinary boy, you know, not really detailing why they love the said main lead. But no lie, this anime does have a twist that's worth watching. If you can stomach the first couple of horny episodes, and like I do mean horny, ultimately making Asahi face his heart-aching, hurt past moment of losing a loved one, then it's worth watching. Like, the method they choose was harsh, and like a slap to the face, straight up just hits out of nowhere. How the feelings of love started out fake and artificial, but then grew into something real, did hit. I think the last part of the anime could have even just been a straight up movie, so we wouldn't have to stomach the first like 6 episodes. It overall would have been much better if they did that, rather than have this 12 episode of a mess. Even at the end, they felt bad for him and they decided to just let him keep his harem. But still, it would have been better a movie than the train wreck that it kind of was. The next one I have on the list is Princess Resurrection. So a boy dies trying to save the life of a woman who doesn't even thank him after he basically pushed her out the way so he would die instead of her. The said girl brings him back to life under the circumstances that he's now going to be working as her servant for the rest of eternity. Liliana is our vampire goth queen of the show, played by Colleen Black, and she gives a great aristocrat performance, meaning she's the shit and she knows she's the shit, and she's not taking nobody's shit. She looks at the main lead hero like a soldier, not like a love interest. If he wants to be a love interest, then he's gonna have to wait like another 100 years. Then maybe he'll have a chance. I like how the supernatural characters are more or less bored, doing what they selfishly please to pass time. Hero's naivete / trusting personality, the amount of people wanting to kill Liliana, and the random supernatural events make up a lot of the time in the episode. I love how little regard Liliana has for Hero or the house. I don't really recommend you really finishing it. That kind of seems like a waste of time, but you can't do that. The problem is, for how old and wise Liliana is, she doesn't share or make the people around her any better or try to give them any life lessons. In a lot of ways, it's fair to just call her just bossy and leave it at that. And the last one we have on the list is I've somehow gotten stronger when I improved my farm-related skills. Not as bad as reviews say it is, but it's 100% just a filler anime. I don't think the characters are more painfully bad than the typical isekai characters we get every year that are exactly the same. In fact, I'd say the ones here are a bit better, at least in some ways. Sure, it's the same as most of the other ones, where the main guy slowly forms a harem, so it's kind of like picking different shades of red tomatoes that have the same texture and stuff. Like, it's the same thing. But at least with the girls here, it seems like they have more of a sense to like him in a way. At least the main guy looks also different as well, has a bit of a quirky personality because all he wants to do is just simply farm. Plus, I like the part at the end where the girl he thought was dead is actually still alive. The part was rushed, yes, but it gives me more of a reason to want to watch season 2 than a lot of these other animes I'm just gonna put on the screen and I have no business of trying to watch them ever again. I think what people wanted, though, was less time focused on the girls and his rushed past, and more about the actual farming. The show was advertised to be Animal Crossing farming simulator, and what they got was more of a side quest fantasy show. So understandable. So yeah, that was all the stuff that I watched in January of 2023. If you liked the video, make sure to like the video. If you've watched any of these animes, hey, let me know how you think about them. As always, watch the anime and go form your own opinion.